I'm Shawnee.
And I'm Ryan. Today, we're digging into a movie that made an entire generation terrified of clowns and TV static. We're talking 1982's Poltergeist.
So stay tuned to the end because this podcast is clean. All right, let's get into it. I'm so excited about this one because my recollection is you've never seen this movie. Am I remembering that correctly?
I must have watched some pieces of it when it was running on broadcast TV, but I never saw it in the theater. And somehow, as time went on, I just never went back to this one. But I did watch it with Jen, and she had seen it.
I've probably seen Poltergeist more than any other horror movie. I haven't actually seen it in a decade, so it was really fun to come back and revisit it.
So this was like your Piranha. Last week we were talking about Piranha, and Jeff, that was such a seminal, influential film for him. It sounds like Poltergeist was that for you.
Why don't we start with a short little plot overview?
Sure. So Steven and Diane Freeling live in a brand new California subdivision with their 3 young kids, and strange disturbances start to happen. Furniture's moving on its own, and their youngest daughter, Carol Ann, starts communicating with static on the TV. The activity escalates into violent supernatural chaos, culminating in Carol Ann being sucked into the spirit realm through her bedroom closet. And then they call in a parapsychologist team and then this medium, Tangina, and they determine that the house has become a gateway for restless spirits and a darker force, the Beast, who are drawn to their daughter Carol Ann.
I feel like I bet a lot of listeners have seen this one. I'd love to hear what people thought of it, if people remember it. I don't know if everyone just has as close a relationship to this movie as I do, but God, so much of it sticks in my head. And at the same time, when I watched it, there were a couple things that I didn't remember at all that really jumped out at me.
Yeah, that's always interesting to have that reframing with years of experience and life stage to have it be a totally different experience than when you saw it when you're 10 or 12. I mean, even if you didn't see it, this was just a cultural juggernaut in terms of the certain scenes and they're here and that image of the young girl in front of the TV with the static. It was a huge film. I think it made almost $80 million.
Yeah, so I watched this with my wife who had never seen it before. You had the opposite situation where you watched it with Jen and she was familiar with it?
Yes. Yep.
So Kim was surprised that Spielberg was doing a horror movie, even though he got his big break with Jaws. But then if you look back at his career, Jurassic Park definitely has some horror stuff in it. The Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Exactly. They all have kind of horror elements to it. So even in his movies that are not straight up horror films, he definitely has always been interested in horror and in adding horror elements to his movies. So do you want to talk about film lore?
Yeah. This movie's been around so long and so big in terms of cultural impact that there's a lot of it. But I don't know, the one that I was just what? I feel like I had heard inklings of this years ago, and I was oh, that's definitely I'm gonna just go to Snopes. But it's that the scene towards the final climax of the film where the mom is trying to save her daughter. The Beast has come back and it re-entered the house, and she's running around, and they've been digging this pool in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
But she falls into that dugout swimming pool, so it's just a pool of mud and water, and skeletons start popping up, and it was generally still creepy. But what's even creepier is those were real skeletons.
Yeah.
What the hell? And they said it was to save cost, but damn.
Can you imagine if you die and then find out that your body is then being used for a PG rated horror movie? Well, I don't know. I might be kind of pissed.
Yeah. You're not probably earning any good karma out of pulling a stunt like that.
What's weird to me about that is the theme of the movie is don't mess around with dead bodies. Because shit could come back to haunt you. I feel like, were the people who made this movie even paying attention to the warning of this movie?
I'm surprised there wasn't a lawsuit, actually, by that actress against Steven Spielberg and the production company. But geez, man.
A massive 80s party.
What is there any 80s watch for this movie? Were there particular things about the 80s that stood out to you?
It's funny, a lot of times I'll watch as the scene's happening, the background, and kind of think about who the prop stylist was, or kind of who who was behind the scenes, like creating the environment, and it did have that very like 80s lived in vibe in terms in the house, like with the carpeted stairs, and it felt like there's like kind of shit everywhere in this house. Like there was like things in every room, like on every surface on the floor, and then especially the kids' room upstairs, it was like toys were just everywhere, and like I would say 3/4 of them were Star Wars toys. Like, it was really sad when the portal opened and they started sucking all those. It was like the TIE X-wing fighter and like all these high quality Star Wars toys getting wrecked. It made me a little sad, but
Yeah, the boy in the movie, was it Robbie? I think his name was. Behind his bed was this big Darth Vader head, but you opened it up and that's where you stored your figures. Did you recognize that?
oh yeah, it was essentially like the Hot Wheels carrier
Yes.
of Star Wars. Yeah, and I did not have one, but I always thought it was cool because like people would roll in with their collection with the Darth Vader head, and it was very professional.
I think I just kept mine in a shoebox. I didn't have anything cool to keep them in. The other thing about the 80s, to wrap up our 80s watch, is you see at one point the dad, Steve, played by Craig T. Nelson, he's like reading a book about Ronald Reagan early in the movie.
Yeah.
And then the plot of the movie is really about soulless corporations and how they will screw over anybody if they make a quick buck. The reason the house is haunted is because this had been a graveyard, and they moved the corporation promised to like move all of the graves to someplace else because they were building this huge suburban neighborhood. But what they actually did was just move the headstones and just leave the bodies in the ground. And that's why this haunting happened, because they had like disturbed all these bodies. I thought that was a cool reveal. What did you think?
I thought it was great because when you watch it, like these haunted house movies are always set in these older houses where they're, energy or something terrible happened. This is a brand new house. So like,
Right.
you're like, wow, how'd this get haunted? And then when they do that reveal, I was like, oh, that's good. So his boss, he takes him up on this hillside and was like, basically trying to say, hey, stay with us. We'll build you a brand new house up here. You get this killer view. Look. And then he turns around and sees that it's a graveyard right behind them. And he's like,
Yeah.
And the guy's like, his boss is like, oh, it's no problem. We're going to move it all. It's all good. And then clearly they didn't move all those bodies. So yeah, that's some bad karma right there.
A massive 80s party.
If you remember this movie being super horrifying, it is really eye-opening to go back and rewatch some of those scenes, because a couple of them do not hold up.
I would nominate this. We should bring back the Cheese Award, which we come from two great states with deep roots in cheese culture, Vermont and Wisconsin.
Slow on the draw, and I need something to chaw. A hanker for a hunk of cheese.
The one that stood out to me was towards the final third of the film when the portal has reopened in Caroline and her brother's room. You see something happening behind the door. There's all this like crazy stuff happening in the house. The mom's getting knocked down the steps by the demonic forces. And then when the portal opens upstairs, it's like, it sort of looks like a Jello mold, when it's like Jello cakes kind of like explode around the edge. And it's supposed to be this like mouth vortex thing that's trying to suck them into this like mouth esophagus thing. And then it has this one little probe that comes out. It's just like this one little tiny probe that looks like it's being driven by a coat hanger. It just did not, it wasn't selling it to me. Like it looked really cheesy. That did not hold up.
We're going to pause for a moment for our week's sponsor, which is SlashBack Cinema.
If you're new to the podcast and dig the vibe, we've got a whole shelf full of VHS tapes for you.
For another 80s classic of suburban horror, check out our episode on A Nightmare on Elm Street.
We're stoked you're here. Now, back to Poltergeist. There were moments where like the way the mom was reacting to what was happening, I don't know that I would be that psyched to like watch my furniture move across the floor. And then when the husband comes home, she's so excited to show him what's happening in the kitchen. And he's like, oh God, what is happening?
There's something about that I liked, because I feel like in the 70s and 80s, being able to commune with the dead or with spirits wasn't necessarily evil, or, there's lots of movies about like people with telekinetic power. And so I feel like before the mom knows that she's in a horror movie, this discovery that if you put something on this one part of the kitchen floor, it'll slide across the floor, and it's kind of fun. Kim did question whether it was good parenting that it's one thing if you stick a chair in the spot and then the chair slides across the kitchen floor. It's another thing when you take your child and stick them in the spot and be like, tell mommy how this feels.
That's an excellent observation. But I will say, like, if this was truly 70s, 80s, they wouldn't have put a helmet on the daughter. Like, they did give her a little bit of safety as she gets sucked across the floor and the dad catches her. One thing it's not necessarily a scene, but it's like a casting thing for this film, this character, and she's like the medium Tangina.
I love her. I thought she
Yeah,
was so cool.
things that I remember for this film, I remembered her. I remember her voice. And it was such an interesting choice of casting. Like, I was thinking about it, like, I don't know that they would do that today. Like, it was kind of unexpected. She's like this very diminutive woman who's the medium, and her name was Zelda Rubinstein. Such an odd choice, but I thought it was like perfect because it kind of like throws you off a little bit. That's not who you're expecting, and she shows up and she's got this really strange voice that's like kind of unforgettable.
It is only a transition to a different sphere of consciousness. Carol Ann is not like those she's with.
Yeah, her line readings were amazing. I loved her. This house is clean. I thought she had a lot of cool moments in this movie. She just came across as like this really tiny person with like a lot of intensity and power.
And then there was that funny moment, like they did this test between the portals. One's upstairs and then one comes through the living room. And the plan is to run this rope through it. They're deciding who's going to go, and Tangina's like,
"What do you think you're doing? I'm going in after her! Won't come to you! Let me go! You've never done this before! Neither have you! You're right, you go!
"You've never done this before," and Tangina's like, "Yeah, actually, I haven't. I'm just making this shit up."
Yes, the movie was funnier than I remember it being.
Yeah, and it was like longer, like it was like almost runtime of full 2 hours. I was like, wow, this is a long film, but it was well paced and I don't know, good stuff. So what stood out to you for scenes?
The scenes that I just remember, like word for word, beat for beat, is that trick that the dad, Craig T. Nelson, teaches his son, that when you see the lightning, you count. And then if the numbers get bigger between the lightning and the thunder, it means the storm's going away. I have no idea if that's actually a true thing, but I still do it to this day.
Yeah, me too.
And I do it because of this movie. I wanted to ask you about the doll, because we've talked before about the fact that I don't have fear of clowns. I don't even understand what is it people are afraid of when they're afraid of. I think clowns are fun.
Yeah, it's chlorophobia. And yes, I think that was on my notes. I wrote clown, horrible, just horrible. And then
I say more about that.
I think I'm going to have to actually admit to myself and to you and to the listeners that I have chlorophobia. Like I do not like clowns at all. And this one, I definitely seen parts of that clown thing, like clips of it, and that was just awful. Like, had that clown been in my room, I would have I took deep satisfaction when the little boy Robbie starts fighting back, and then he proceeds to start ripping the stuffing out of the doll. I was like, "Go, Robbie!
Yeah,
kill that effing clown!"
Yes, that's something I had totally forgotten about this movie. Is Robbie, that boy? He has like a character arc. Early in the movie, I'd say the first half of the movie, he is constantly terrified. He's terrified of that clown doll. He's terrified of bad weather, terrified of his tree. And so just bad things keep happening to him. But then in that scene with the clown, I had totally forgotten that it's like he's had enough at this point. And he's like, F this clown. I'm tired of this bullshit. And I actually really enjoyed seeing him develop and say, you have to fight the monster. You can't just be scared. I had totally forgotten that is his character arc. I thought that was great.
Yeah. And of note, he is the middle child in the film, and they're notoriously neglected. So there were scenes where like Carol Ann, they're all dealing with Carol Ann, and then like poor Robbie's like covered in ectoplasm or whatever glue, and like bawling his eyes out, and the parents are like, where's Carol Ann?
The other thing about this movie that I felt like works 100% is the sound of Carol Ann in the television.
Yeah, that's good.
That is the eeriest fucking sound.
Do you see a light?
God, it is like, it just sent like an icy chill down my spine. And it holds up 45 years later like it did when the movie came out. God damn, is that thing scary. It is such a scary sound. And it worked for me as a kid, and it worked for me as a parent. Like when you hear your child saying, "I'm lost, I'm scared, where are you?" It's terrifying. It's almost, it was scarier now to hear what the girl was saying when she was in the spirit realm than it was when I watched it 35 years ago. I wanted to ask you about the parakeet. I don't know, what's your pet situation like now? Do you guys have a dog?
We have 2 dogs and cat. And when I grew up, I did have a parakeet for a period of time. Yeah, Polly, a very original name. Polly the parakeet. Yeah. And similar demise for Polly. One day came downstairs and Polly was laying sideways in the bottom of the birdcage. And yeah, we did not flush Polly down the toilet. I think got a proper burial in the backyard.
I had a question about whether or not, I don't know if you should be flushing birds down the toilet.
I totally agree. I'm glad there was an intervention by Carol Ann in that scene.
Have you had to deal with like pets dying and like you like helping your kids deal with the trauma of
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you lose a dog. That was one of the tougher times in this house. I mean, with dogs, like, it's just pure love. So like when they die, it's like the grief hits you differently than a family member in some ways. But
we had a guinea pig that died. It died when the kids were at school. So both the kids come home and we realized we're going to have to like sit them down and tell them. And so it was kind of a summery day. It was nice outside. So I said to the kids, let's go outside and just sit on the trampolines and we'll talk for a second. So we sat on the trampoline. This is like a parenting moment that you wish you could take back because my kids, this story that I just told you about, we sat on the trampoline and then I told them their guinea pig had died. And then they went through like the normal kid emotions of that. And we talked about it and kind of processed together. But my kids like hate trampolines now. And if anything as bad is going on, if I say to them, "Oh, your grandma's not feeling well," my daughter's like, "Do we have to go sit on the trampoline?" Like, no, it's not that bad. So it's a little warning for if you're listening to this and you don't have kids yet, or you haven't had to talk them through this experience, they're going to remember some weird thing you do. It's going to embed in them forever. So my kids think of trampolines associated with death now, thanks to me. Parenting 101 move there.
You know, it's not a bad long game strategy, though, because nothing ever good comes of trampolines anyway. Insurance companies jack up your rates. Somebody breaks their arm or leg. Like, so, you know, that's good fear you instilled in them.
So we're ready for some stabby scores?
Yeah, let's do it. Again, stabby rating 1 to 4.
1 is do not watch this movie. It's a total waste of your time. 2 is maybe watch a couple of scenes. There's a couple of good scenes, but you can skip the movie. 3 is this is actually pretty good, and it's worth checking out if you like horror movies. And number 4 is it's a classic of the genre, 100% A+ rating, a fresh tomato, and one of the greats.
Had I seen this movie in the 80s, this would have been a 4 stabby movie, like hands down. And the only reason I'm not giving it 4 stabs is I just think some of the special effects, like we just talked about, have not held up over the years. So like this is the reviewing it now in current times lens. I'm going to knock half a stab off, bring this in at 3.5 stabs.
I think that's pretty fair. So you really liked it then?
I did. Like I think it's got great story, great acting. Yeah, it's awesome. And then like the whole, I mean, certain scenes like they're cheesy and dated, but like the skeletons and the like pull and the face ripping off scene, even though it was totally bad. Like, had I seen that as a kid, and the freaking clown? Okay, there's some good stuff in here. But
yes.
How about you?
I am giving this a 4 out of 4. To me, this is like one of the great haunted house movies. I thought every single actor is incredible. Even Carol Ann, she's both is really good at playing a sweet little girl and also really good at playing a creepy little girl. I thought the special effects were cheesy, but if you love 80s horror movies, I feel like I have a lot of affection for the cheesiness of some of the effects. And God, it still really worked. Like, I just thought there were so many scenes I thought were fantastic, bone-chillingly scary. I thought that the whole thing just was on rails. I think this is just an incredibly good haunted house movie. So I'm saying must watch.
Must watch. Okay, this is one of our higher rated films here on SlashBack. So yeah.
Now we have to go and see Poltergeist 2 because I remember that movie being a pile of dog crap. And then Poltergeist 3 being something worse than a pile of dog crap. You'll have to use your imagination. I'm not sure what that would be.
Elephant.
But,
yeah.
You're saying Jen liked Poltergeist 2 better. And so I think we should go back and watch it. So Ryan, I got a quick question for you.
What's up, man? What do you got?
My question is,
Shall we play a game?
Oh, yes. Yes, we shall. What? And I believe we alluded to this is some 1982 themed trivia here.
yes, so because Carol Ann is interacting with the monsters through her television, I thought, let's see what was happening on television in 1982, and I'll ask you some specific questions about TV in that era.
I'm ready.
So let's see how well you remember television from 44 years ago. Question number 1, you're going to get 3 options.
Excellent. Yes.
In the pilot episode of Three's Company, how does Jack convince the Ropers to let him live with Janet and Chrissy? A, he promises to pay extra rent and do all the cooking. B, he pretends to be married. Or C, he pretends to be gay. Ryan, of those 3 options, he pays extra rent and promises to do the cooking, he pretends to be married, or he pretends to be gay. How did Jack convince the Ropers to let him live with Janet and Chrissy?
Man, yeah, in a little bit of cultural context, that like only back in the 80s would that have been a problem to like be living with 2 women as a man. But I believe it was because he was convincing Mr. Roper that he was gay.
Yes, and then that became a constant plot element where he had to like fake gay. I feel like, yikes.
Yikes.
None of that holds up very well today.
No.
But also, the fact that your landlord would be like, I must understand what kind of a sexual relationship the 3 of you are going to have. I feel like,
Well,
yikes. No,
Right. And the landlord was always just popping in to like be like, what's up? Like,
yeah. All right. 1 out of 3. Here we go for
All
number
right.
2. Ryan, which 1980s television series opened with the following line? I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to give you 4 options of TV shows, and you have to tell me which one opened with the line, in 1972, a crack commando unit was sent to prison for a crime they didn't commit. Ryan, what crack commando unit was sent to prison for a crime they didn't commit?
yeah. Give me the options here.
Was it A, Magnum PI? Was it B, the A-Team? Was it C, Knight Rider? Or was it D, Airwolf?
Boy, on this list that you just laid out were some of my favorite shows of all time, just in the answer set that you provided. So, but however, the correct answer to your question is the A-Team.
The A-Team, correct. And it turns out they were not the only crack commando unit sent to prison for a crime they didn't commit in the 80s.
Yeah, there was a lot of those happening. Yeah.
Yes. Every other TV show was a guy who's being arrested for a crime he didn't commit.
Problem. If no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-Team.
I think the Hulk had issues with his origin story and some crime he didn't commit, and then we had Airwolf going rogue, and then you had Dukes of Hazzard's clear they were on the wrong side of the law all the time.
Yes.
But
They're constantly getting chased for crimes they didn't commit. All right, so Ryan, I mentioned Knight Rider, who, by the way, I had to double check this because he was not sent to prison for a crime he didn't commit. So here's my question about Knight Rider. Ryan, which of the following was not one of Kit's abilities? So I'm going to list 4 abilities. 3 of them Kit actually could do. 1 of them Kit could not do. Are you ready?
Okay. Yep.
A, turbo boost. B, bulletproof shell. C, cloaking device. D, artificial intelligence. Which one of those 4, turbo boost, bulletproof shell, cloaking device, artificial intelligence, was not one of Kit's abilities?
well, Kit was artificial intelligence, I believe, like early on. So okay, I feel like there was always turbo boost or jumps happening. Like, so I'm feeling like that was one, and then
You're working your way through it. That is correct. So you're
He
down
never
to
got-
2.
so cloaking or bulletproof? I gotta feel like he's bulletproof, so I'm going cloaking.
Cloaking device is correct. 3 out of 3, Ryan. You've done it again.
Yeah. Okay.
I was actually surprised. I genuinely had to check this online that he never turned invisible a single time. But you would think, in terms of special effects on a TV show, that'd be the easiest one. You just
Right, it
film
was like
nothing.
Wonder Woman, like with her, like her invisible jet.
But even with Wonder Woman, you had to, for some reason, she didn't turn invisible, which, how useful is an invisible jet if you on the inside of the jet are not invisible? Can't they just see you flying in the air?
What is going on?
That's raise questions. But in fact, to my surprise, Kit did not turn invisible. He had no cloaking. But he did have turbo boost. He was bulletproof, and he was an artificial intelligence. I like how you worked through it and you figured it all out.
Thank you. Boy, another strong trivia performance on my part here. So I'm on
Well
a
done.
roll. So yeah,
Absolutely. I would love to hear from other listeners how you did on today's trivia. People like to reach out to us and let us know how they did. So I'm always interested in whether or not people were as successful as you on the trivia today. Those were all TV shows from 1982 that Carol Ann could have been watching, but she only seemed to watch TV when it was static. So she was missing all these good shows.
yeah, bad parenting. Staying up too late, watching the static on TV. Like, parents be warned.
That wraps up another trip down memory lane. Hopefully you enjoyed revisiting 1982's Poltergeist as much as we did.
If you're also a Gen X survivor, rate and review us on Apple and Spotify. It really helps new people find the show. And if you're a super fan, donate at the link below in our show notes.
And we want to hear from you. If you've got a favorite memory from the 70s or 80s or a classic horror movie you'd like us to dissect, drop us a line at slashbackcinema.com because your suggestions keep the conversation alive.